All right. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Give me a few minutes and I'm going to go ahead and get us started. But let me log on to Facebook and go live there.
Okay.
Extra step. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right. It should be live now. We have a few more minutes before we get started.
Okay.
And then we can get our party started.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. Let me go. Okay, they're gonna let me do that. 21. Okay, let's go. Okay. All right.
1 second for me to adjust this. I don't know why I didn't adjust, but that's okay. Perfect. All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Intentional Conversations, episode 14. We are going to be discussing a lot of amazing things with, and you will correct me if I say it wrong, but I'm going to get it right. Jalal.
Jalal, yeah.
That's okay. You guys don't. I'm not asking him about his name because we are not familiar with each other because we know each other. But you know how you call someone something and it's not even their name. Like people, for a long time, I even said my name wrong. I used to say, "Hey, my name is Fashay" to everyone, and that's what people call me. But my name is Fashay. And so when I started saying it right, we're like, "Oh, so now you Fashay." Okay. My mom used to correct me all the time, but anyhow, I'm so excited. We have the title that we have tonight is Fatherhood, Trial and Error, because that really is going to segue into some things that Jalal will share tonight, and it's going to be so. I just think it's going to be a wealth of information, a wealth of insight. So before I get going, I'll just remind everybody that the goal of this intentional conversation is really just to share best practices, our experiences, lessons learned through our journey as experts in our own journey, right? And the things that we've experienced and have had exposure to. We are not our professional counselors or coaches trying to prescribe or treat any particular area that we speak about today. But again, we're supposed to be doing life with each other. So sharing best practices, having intentional conversations are all important to everyone's journey. And if there is something that you can learn from what we've shared, if you guys have questions, we'll do our best to make sure we look at the comments during the session, if not towards the end, to kind of review that. But again, we will be more than happy to respond to the questions you have or input that you have. But again, whatever we respond there to is once again not supposed to be deemed as professional or expert advice or coaching or counseling. But again, just best practices, lessons learned. So Jalal, I'm super excited because let me give a brief intro because we are not talking to just anyone. Of course, I shouldn't say of course, because you guys don't know, I'm representing the 206 today. This is my 206 girl sweatshirt today. I'm representing, and if you are in Seattle, you can get one at Art Noir on 23rd and Union in different colors. But anyhow, we know each other from the 206 from Seattle, Washington. We grew up together. And so I just wanted to make sure that you guys had an opportunity to hear the insight, the experience that he will share tonight. Because again, as a published author of kids book or books, I believe you have multiple books, right? That's okay. And then also having his own podcast, which is, I actually snagged the trial and error from that because is based on that, his experience in fatherhood, co-parenting, blended families, all of that. But I also had the privilege of interviewing Jalal in my process as I interview men about being fathers, biological and bonus fathers. And so, chapter 3, which is about all the straight talk, no chaser, where I ask men very candid questions. He was very instrumental in providing perspective and insight on his fatherhood experience. And I don't want to steal any thunder, so I have some questions. We have not gone over the questions. I typically don't go over the questions with the fathers. I share some things with them ahead of time, like a outline of some things I'll cover. But again, their responses are raw and uncut, and that's pretty much how I got to learn a lot about him when I interviewed. And so you were very inspirational to me, very insightful. Just your background and your perspective on various topics. So I'm excited for you to share, of course, some things that we went over and anything else that may come up to you. So go ahead and share with the people, and welcome. Go ahead and let us know where you joined from, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, in the comment section. That would be good. And so let's go ahead and start with a little bit of background about your story, your journey, and who you are, and and we'll go from there.
All right, that sounds good. First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on, and also I got a chance to read the book, and I really enjoyed the book, especially the part where you almost went in the backyard and got your teardrop for like, for for getting ready to do what you had to do, and I was just like, it was raw and real, and I love how at such a young age you were able to figure out, okay, what my role is and what my role is not, and then be able to transition from there as a child to kind of figure all that out. That was amazing. It was really, I really enjoyed the book. So I wanted to start there to make sure, I just appreciate you and the message you wrote in the book for me. I just want to start there and let you know.
Yes, well, thank you, because one thing I'll tell you guys is he is a reader. He and very educational and insightful. So not just on YouTube University watching videos and speaking about it, but actually an intellectual that does his due diligence. So yeah, I was about to be locked up. They won't.
Yeah, yeah.
At
Yeah,
a
I was
young age,
like,
I was about
woo.
to. Yeah, I was about to. I thought I was in. I don't know, something with my little blade. I thought I was about to just slice that my mom's boyfriend up. We'll talk about that
Yeah,
next.
yeah.
But yeah. But thank you so much for investing the time to actually read it, because sometimes people have all good intentions, but executing due to life doesn't make way for them to do it. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, so a little bit about me. I am like Jalal Wilson. I am an author of three children's books about fatherhood. I really think that my philosophy on life is we're all just trying to figure it out,
Mhm.
and it we're it's a continuous process. We never arrive. We just as soon as you come up one hill, there's something else that you got to navigate, learn, work through, whatever the case may be. And a I've been involved in a blended family for 34 years now, because my mom married my stepfather when I was 10. So I've been a part of that family for 34 years. And then I had my own first hand at what I would consider a blended family at the age 22, where me and my then wife, we had a 1-year old, a newborn, and her 13-year-old sister moved from California to come live with us. So that was my first introduction to kind
Wow.
of that. And
Mhm.
then, I went on to eventually, after my divorce, end up raising uh, all four of our children for um, about 5 years before one of them decided to leave, and then so and then I still have the two youngest now. So and now I'm married in a blended family with three additional kids,
Mhm.
with my wife's kids, Shay, my wife Shay's kids, I should say.
Mhm.
So it's been a interesting journey with that. But those is kind of like, and I believe I do have a YouTube channel, which, I'll talk about how that all blends in later. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's the good overview. And just and we decided to move our family to Columbia, South Carolina. So we are in South Carolina for the last almost 3 years now. 3 years.
Yeah, I remember you were kind of scoping out where
Mhm.
you actually wanted to go, and then you guys landed on that. And so I think one thing that was really, well, a lot of things were inspiring when we interviewed, and you shared with me some of your background, your transparency about your journey and learning along the way was amazing. And just your ability to say, all right, I'm going to step up as a father and be a single father to raise children and co-parent, to the degree that you were able to co-parent. That was unusual. Especially, I hadn't seen a lot of single fathers that decided that I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to invest the time and really be present. And my co-parent, my ex-wife, she's going to do her thing, and I'll do my thing. And based on wherever the children are in their journey, they have the flexibility to go ahead and live with their mom if they would like to, and things of that nature. Just your journey. And I thought it was amazing because, again, at the time I saw you doing different things with your kids, cooking classes. You guys were doing all kind of things. And I thought, man, how engaged and present, because that's a question I asked you. I asked, what do you believe you're a present father? And I said, uh, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. And then we went down that line, and you shared perspective on that. And I was like, man, how awesome is this? And I think at that time, the one of your children had decided to go and live with his mom. I think it was one of your sons. And the
Yes,
fact that, yeah, and the fact that it wasn't like you only had boys. You had so you have, just make sure I get this right. Is it four outside of your bonus?
yeah. 4 and 3 is 3 boys, 1 girl.
One girl. Okay, I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah.
And so I thought, again, that was amazing as well, that you you were you were very intentional about stepping up and intentional about exploring the new territory that wasn't necessarily ideal, but you were like, hey, I'm not going to just you know stand by, but I'm going to actually be engaged. So I thought that was amazing. So with that being said,
Mhm.
I wanted you to share with us your personal so your YouTube channel. Let's segue into that a little bit, because
Okay.
I think you can share some insight about this. The trial and error piece. I wanted you to share some personal perspectives on your own trial and error experience as a father, as maybe a co-parent partner, and a bonus. So as a biological father, bonus father, and a co-parent partner. And I don't really know if I believe you probably integrate that into your own stories, because we've talked and things of that nature, your YouTube channel. So maybe you can kind of highlight some things and some segments you've shared.
Yeah, I think so. For for me, the how trial and error even came to be is because like I've been trying a bunch of different things to figure out like what is my thing, what is my lane, what is it? Like, I could do this. Yeah, that's cool. I could do that, but nothing stuck. So I was trying
Mhm.
to figure out what my lane is. And one of the things I'm passionate about is, I mean, and it's always been a part of me, is this fatherhood thing, this fatherhood journey, this
Mhm.
being a father, a stepson, and now a father to in a blended family. Like it's been a part of my journey, And I want to see us as men especially do better to or understand our roles in it,
Mhm. Mhm.
make it a little bit I don't want to say easier because I don't think it's easy, but
Mhm.
to make it doable, you know. And so that is the journey. So with fatherhood, when we spoke, it was after my son had left. But when my son
Mhm.
had left, it was kind of one of those things where it caught me off guard. This wasn't a situation where, I knew this was going to happen,
Right.
but in that moment that it did happen, there was no other choice but for that to happen. That was if in order to maintain the relationship for the with the rest of the kids, it was the thing that had to happen in that moment.
Right.
And so as a father, sometimes you're in these situations where you have to say, what is the best thing for everybody involved?
Mhm.
Not necessarily what is the best thing for only me, but what is the best thing for everybody involved? And that sometimes you're going to have to say, not right today, because today it might have been the best thing for me,
Mhm.
but we got to play this out over the long run. What does this look like? What is this decision look like if we play it out in 5, 10 on a longer time frame?
Mhm.
And for me, what that decision looked like was something I was not willing to accept or have at that moment in my life. And so that was tough. I remember talking to you, and I really was like, okay, I'm a father, but if this happened to me,
Mhm.
my goal was I wanted to keep all four of my children together
Right.
because which was important to me because I never met my biological dad when I
That's
was
yeah.
young.
Mhm.
Yeah, when I was
Mhm.
young, actually, before I mean, I don't have no recollection of him or anything. My mom told me he was in a bar one day and
Mhm.
someone slipped a Mickey in his drink and he went crazy and they split up. No idea. Well, she knew he was in California somewhere, but boom, it was like that. He was just gone. And
Mhm.
so when I had children, my desire was, okay, I never want that to be the situation for me.
Right.
So I need to do whatever I need to do to make sure that does not happen.
Mhm.
So when my son left, it was like, well, dang, you failed. You failed at the one thing that you said that you wanted. You were going to keep your children together. So that was that time period was a struggle for me till I was able to get perspective on the situation, what my what my role was at that moment, and be able to step back and look at the bigger picture and say, okay, this is where we're at.
Mhm.
I have poured into him, and right now he believes he needs something different.
Yeah.
I have to trust what I poured. And,
Right.
and
So it's funny that you say that because I remember talking to you about it, and I was like, so I was asking questions, and so I have to remember that everybody that's listening now wasn't in the interview when I talked to you.
yeah.
So I asked questions like, what made you step up, right? So I want
Mhm.
you to dive into that. What made
Oh
you
yeah.
and say, okay, I want to try to do this, and how was it with your co-parent partner, their mom, to say,
Mhm.
okay, because that's sometimes tough for a mother and not not making her any kind of villain in it because
Mhm.
people sometimes feel like if a woman decides not to take the lead role
Mhm.
and be the primary parent that's strange too is it because it's not as common, right? So I
Yeah.
do want you to share some insight about that and what made you step up. But I do remember you saying at the time, and maybe you were really toggling with it in the inside, you said, well, my son decided to go and live with his mom and I'm struggling. And that's why I loved your transparent. You were like, I'm struggling. I did, I wasn't, I'm not excited about it, but
Mhm.
you were like, but it is what it is, and I'll
Yeah,
figure it out. That,
yeah,
that
yeah. And
you
and
like,
I,
I'll figure it out. And I was like, okay. And that was all
yeah,
you were like, but I love that you weren't trying to fill in the gap. You weren't trying to like, you were definitely still in that moment. And
mhm.
you were like, I could tell you were like, I don't really get it. Um, but hey, I'm thinking it'll come, and I know I have to let this happen, but I don't really know how I feel about it. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
yeah, and it was one of those things. Like it was all so much happening that like when it happened,
Yes.
it was all so much happening at like one time, and I'm just like, well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna tell you this because I talked about this one time on my YouTube channel. I had
Mhm,
a before that happened, a few days before that happened, I had a dream about a large snake like eating me. Like
mhm,
the weirdest thing. I've never had a dream. I don't like snakes, but I've never had a dream about a snake eating me before.
mhm,
That dream bothered me so much
mhm.
that I remember looking up, going on Google the next day to see if I could figure out what does it mean if a large snake
It's a
eats.
it's a dream.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to figure this out. And of
Mhm,
course, Google wasn't no help. And
mhm.
so I was at I was at the gym. I remember being at the gym the follow that next day with my cousin. And I told my cousin the dream. He's like, yeah, I don't know. You know, it's like I don't know why I even told him, like, you ain't no dream whisperer. Like, I don't know what I expect. I don't know what I expected him to say, but yeah, he
Right.
didn't have nothing for me either. And so I'm just like, this is crazy. But it was one of the first times that I ever remember sitting with a dream like that for so long.
Mhm.
And then the way the situation, everything played out afterwards, it was like it was telling me that something was going to happen that was going to, you know, disturb me.
Mhm.
Um, and it was
Mhm.
a warning, but I couldn't do anything with it because I didn't understand it in that moment.
Right. Right.
But what helped me that I remember that next day, I was listening to a sermon by TD Jakes, and he said in the sermon, he said the name Wilson, and he was like, yeah, it was something like um you're gonna be okay. He was something or let it go or something like that. But I'm like,
Mhm.
this man just used my last name in this sermon.
Mhm.
I was like,
Mhm.
okay, this was the confirmation, for
Mhm.
me that I needed. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And so when we talked, I'm just like, I don't know what this looks like,
Right.
but
Right.
here we are.
Mhm.
And the original how I ended up with the children is we were getting a divorce, and I said, look, um, we sat down, and I'm like, what do you well, I said I'm gonna I said the best thing for the kids would be to stay with me because she didn't know exactly what she wanted to do, where she was going to go, or what this was all going to look like for her.
Right.
And I'm like, well, the kids can stay here. We've already have they got a setup, they got a routine. We can just do that. Um, and at first she was like, no, no. And then she, as time went on, because after we had agreed to get a divorce, we were still living in the same house for a few months. And
Mhm.
that was weird. Like,
Yeah.
that was weird. It was a lot. And so, but as time went on, so we kind of, after we had the initial conversation, we had time to kind of rehash the conversation. And then we both agreed that, okay, this is going to be what is in best for the kids. And there wasn't a set time. We didn't say, okay, we're going to try this for, a month, a year.
Mhm.
We just said, this is what we're going to do. So we set up the paperwork, like, this is exactly what the plan is, and this is going to stay the plan.
Now,
Um,
let me ask a question.
go ahead.
How old were you all at this time? Because I think this is super mature
Yeah.
for how old were you guys?
I at the time I think I was 34 maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah, 34 because it's been about 10 years.
Yeah,
So yeah, I was 34. Actually, I might have been 33 or 34. And
yeah,
she would have been 30 or 31.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
when it
mean, I just even I just wanted I was blown away and inspired and motivated
Mhm.
even then, right? Because things don't life is not ideal, right? And
Right.
when people talk about divorce and things of that nature,
Mhm.
there or even staying in a home that's broken, but just trying to do it for the kids, which is also counterproductive
Yeah.
for the kids. Um, but um, but for you two, and I'm not trying to make a story anybody that's
Mhm, mhm.
listening that Jalal is saying that it was ideal or his
It
co-parent.
wasn't. I
But
wasn't ideal.
but the fact is it
Yeah.
wasn't ideal and they
Uh,
still said, but this is bigger than us.
yeah. Yeah.
Not that you didn't have moments that you were like, wait, what about me? Not and I'm we're not saying that either, but you guys came to a point where you guys both realized that it is this is bigger than us, and even your recommendation of hey they can stay here, and
Mhm.
her first initial gut feeling is like nah that ain't gonna happen, Captain, right? Maybe, but coming back as a woman to say, you know what, all right,
Mhm.
let's go ahead and do that. No time uh, limit. Let's kind of see where this goes. That takes a lot of courage for both of you, for
Mhm.
both of you all to do that, and not know the unfamiliar and so much, so much ambiguity that lied ahead. But you guys still work with what you had to try to figure that out, because I know a lot of women be like, I don't care if you have a whole home and they have a setup, they're my kids are coming and we may be
Yeah.
living on the streets, and there's no thought about it. It's like, and you guys will work it out, but they're not thinking about really the kids in that moment, and
Mhm.
it's hard for them to see that, you know. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I definitely also commend her, your co-parent partner, for whatever rationale she had to say, you know what, okay, let me go with this and let me partner with you. Again, not trying to say that y'all didn't have moments, but I think that's very much commendable.
Yeah, and I think too, we were just in different stages in life because when
Mhm.
we got together, um, she was 19, I was 21.
Mhm.
So and then by no, yeah, and so by the following year, she's having her first kid. Then the year after that, we're having our second kid, and then
Mhm.
we taking on her sister. So she like that whole, I'm going to figure out,
Mm.
life.
Mhm.
She wasn't
Yeah.
doing that, but I mean, she didn't get to do that, and
Yeah.
so she still had that. I still want to hang out. I still want to kick it. I still want to
Yeah.
figure that out. And me,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I had a little bit of, I was able to do a little bit of that before I met her,
Yes. Mhm.
and so it just wasn't as serious to me. And I always knew too that if I'm gonna do that, if I want to do that, I'll figure that out, even if I got the kids. So
Right. Right.
that wasn't gonna be a deterrent for me. So I felt like it was kind of like, okay, now I get a little bit of freedom to kind of figure myself out. I don't have the responsibility of the kids, and for right or wrong,
Right. Right.
that's
Mhm.
where we're at. And
Yes.
I understood it, and I would rather that if I think any parent who know, if right now you're not willing to do your best, or you are not capable of doing your best, why not let the other person who is willing to step up and do that actually do that? That kind of
Well, that's the thing. Uh, that's a thought that we all should be pondering, but honestly, that's a thought that we don't.
Right.
We don't,
Right.
we don't, and we don't even when family tries to come in or
Mhm.
someone
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
give perspective and say, hey, well, do you think that, just for a little bit, if the kids even stays with me, it's almost like there's so many different conflicts, right? Whether it's pride, whether it's, this is the only thing I feel like I have control over, and
Mhm.
everything else is out of control.
Mhm.
Um, and I think all of the other stuff blocks them from thinking, but what about the impact on these kids?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
the is significant,
Mhm.
and there's this mindset of, well, I survived, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't have an ideal childhood, is what sometimes they think, and so they'll be fine. I'll check with them out, but really they're not in that kid's world to even, and they don't even have the capacity to check in and assess what
Mhm.
the kid's going through. But still in all, they still move forward. And I think a lot of parents do that today, even married, separated, everything. We still don't think about
Yeah.
what are the impacts
Mhm.
of on what matters of this investment, right? Which is the
Mhm.
kids. Yeah.
Mhm. And yeah, and it not the impact. And I do understand, like, your point was, people worried about what people may say and think
Yes.
about them. And it's funny because I definitely think, when people hear it, the first thought is to drag her.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
uh but and it also, what I found interesting is that for me it was more of like, this is something that is not seen a lot, but it's always like the first thought is, well, did she die? Is she, like,
Well, where's she at?
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So let
Mhm.
me get this straight,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
just, he explained it. But the thing was, I think too, for me is, I knew, I said, like, if there's a choice to be made, I will do this. But I didn't have no idea how I was going to do that. I
Right.
remember I went to the store like the very first day. She After she had moved out, I went to the store, and I
And
left the
you had
kids.
all four kids.
Yeah, I had
Did
all
you have
four
a
kids.
sister too?
Huh?
Was her
No, no,
sister?
no, no. Her sister at this point was grown and had moved out.
Okay. Okay. So she was
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
yeah. So I go to the store and I leave all the kids at home. The store's across the street. I'm like, I'm like, I need a quick little break. I go to the store to get some dinner. I come back. No, they call me and like, uh, Jordan messed up the TV. I'm like, I've been gone like less than 5 minutes. This guy, he was probably, I think he was 2 at the time. He took a cup of water and poured it into the TV somehow, like in between, right on the motherboard of the TV. Like, I'm like, how? Like, like the accuracy, like for you to get it right there, like, how did that happen?
Mhm.
And so it was, and I remember it was a brand new TV, and I had no money to buy another TV. So we sat with that TV for like probably like 6, 9 months with a line right through the middle. Like, this, this is how you guys, hey, this
That's
is,
right. That's right.
yeah, hey, this is, we ain't got it, and so I remember though that first night crying on, I mean, at the end of the night, uh I remember putting myself up against the refrigerator and just sliding down, crying, like, thinking like, why? Why? Like, what did I do? Like,
You're like, I didn't think this through.
yeah, I didn't think this through. Like, I could have been kicking it right now. Like, I did not think this through. So I went through a lot of them, those days, because, and also with the original plan, was that I would get every other weekend free. And so for the first, 5, 6 months, that's how it went. I got every other weekend free. So I was like, this is cool. And then she had lost her job and decided she was going to then move out of state. So once she decided to move out of state, now there's no every other free weekend. Like, this is me
Mm-hmm.
24/7, just me. Like, and that was, so you go from transitioning to here, okay, this is cool, to
Mm-hmm.
now, okay, you don't even get a break. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is you all, oh my gosh. So this is something else,
Yeah.
so it was a process for me to just be like, okay, at each step doing this thing, you gotta figure something out. You gotta
Right.
figure out what this is gonna look like, what you're gonna do next. It was
So how
an adventure.
just how did you what did you have like outlets or support? Like how did you? Because I know sometimes as a man, go ahead.
No, no, I discovered an outlet. I didn't have an outlet.
Okay.
I discovered one, and the one I discovered was journaling. So I had to start writing. And because if I did not, I was gonna lose my if
Yeah.
I didn't, because I needed to um get out what I was going through, but
Mm-hmm.
also not put that weight on other people, because
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't their weight to carry. It was mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I made, I made a decision to put me in a situation. Now, my parents, of course, helped out with a kid. My friends were always great, all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was me. And so I use writing as my outlet to kind of really work through some of the things that I was experiencing and going through
Mhm.
at that time, writing and creating stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting because I had sent you Dr. JL who was on
Mhm.
our last episode. I was like, man, him and Jalal will be amazing together because I know uh, that's one thing that he also really highlighted for his students as well is the power of writing and
Yeah.
journaling. And if you don't know where to start, he used hip hop as a
Mhm.
way to actually, help because a lot of kids and a lot of people relate with music.
Mhm.
And then if they have some framework of okay, these are lyrics, but it started out as words on a piece of paper or written word. and
Mhm.
so um and so we talked about that. So I'm happy that I didn't realize, I don't think you and I talked about that, but it's good to hear you say that. Yeah, I had family, I had friends, and I had people that were supportive. And I heard this when I interviewed men too. Um, but there, and then just my husband who talks to me about things, something about a man that even if I have these outlets, even if I use counseling, even
Mhm.
if I use uh, other outlets and people that support me, there's something still as a man that I grapple with, and I need to find a way. To your point,
Mhm.
I don't feel this weight is for someone else to carry, right?
Mhm.
Even so, I need to figure out how. Even though people are saying I'm here, I'll help you. There's something else inside of you all that makes you feel a sense of ownership that I have to figure this out,
Mhm.
right? And so I love the fact that you said, and I wrote it and I found a way to actually hone in how I was going to manage it in the way that I felt was best.
Mhm. Mhm.
Even though I had resources, I didn't,
Yeah.
but there was something else that was a part of me that I needed to work through.
Yeah, and it was important, and I like how he said he uses the hip hop lyrics and
Yeah.
getting, just because whatever it takes to get people into that space of writing.
Hmm.
When you write, you really clarify what you think. That's the bet. That is, with the process of writing, you need to know what you think, and when you take it out of your head and put it down on paper, you actually get to see what you think. It could be like, well, that's crazy, but okay, this is where I'm at. you know, like, what do I do now with that? This is where I am. This is where I'm at. And I also teach a journaling class too. At the library. Actually, I'm teaching one on Saturday. But
Oh,
because I want that to be something that people really do more of, because I really think it helps. But
will you record? Do you record those or
I
do you?
I will be this Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna record it and upload it because at last time we had my last journeying class, we had like 15 people, and it was beautiful to me because some people had bought a lot of journals, but never actually wrote in their journals because of different
Right.
fears or whatever the case may be. And so it was beautiful to be able to address some of those things. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to this class on Saturday to see how many people actually also went back and started their practice of journaling, and
Mhm.
just show them different techniques of journaling and different things like that. And
Right.
and it was so impactful to me that I created a journal. It's called the Enough Journal. And
Mm.
the reason why I created that journal was because I know it's hard for people when they have to stare at a blank page and figure out what to write. So I
Right.
wanted to make a journal where there's actually questions for
Mhm.
different areas of life that you can draw from at the beginning of the journal as a writing prompt, and then start there. And then,
Absolutely. Now,
whatever.
where is that at? Do you have that on
That is,
Amazon?
yes, that is on Amazon.
And what
Yes.
is it called?
It's called Enough, the journal.
Enough. So enough, and then in the author Jalal Wilson.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Toya, my sister right here, she'll put that in the comments too.
Okay. Okay.
And we'll make sure we put that out there, because I love that you actually share that you're creating a framework or something that gets people started. Because to your point, I remember back in high school when
Mhm.
people used to talk about journaling or having a diary. I was like, I don't, I don't
Yeah.
have time for this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever. But I love how you put it. It really does help you clarify your thoughts. You don't have to be. It's kind of like prayer. How people feel like they got to go, oh, to the heavenly throne of the Lord, and have all these
Yeah.
eloquent words, right? But
Yeah.
all you have to do is be as authentic as you can be and as raw as you can be. And sometimes it's just a few words. I'm not feeling life today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boom. And I'm not, and or I feel like I'm not measuring up. But then at some point, being able to, and this is why promptings are good too, being able to have something that makes you think, if you are on a path of calling out a lot of negative things, what's going to help you like turn the curve and say, okay, so not everything is bad, right? So something that I used and we'll talk about today is uh, the principle we use oftentimes is the start, stop, and continue. You can use that to say, here's what I need to stop doing because I do this wrong, then do that wrong. But
Mhm.
here's what I need. You have to transition to, what can I start doing, right? How
Mhm.
can I actually turn the curve? And then what can I continue doing, because I don't do everything wrong,
Mhm.
right? So how
Yeah.
do I acknowledge those different things?
Mhm.
But this weekend, my sister friend and I, we went and we were took a road trip, and we were talking about the fact that sometimes when people are trying to convey a message
Mhm.
or they're trying to write, they don't have the vocabulary or the words to share,
Mhm.
um, because sometimes just life didn't give us that exposure. So we
Yeah.
use some common things like, I'm angry. But if you journal, you can say, well, what does anger mean? Right? Are
Mhm.
you disappointed? Are you, disheartened? Or there are other words other than just like the word we know. There are
Yes.
other words that make that, if you are able to tap into that and explore and write it down, then it's really not that I'm angry. I'm really sad. I feel like in despair, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but writing helps you to do that more. And then if you what you've created helps them with prompts, it may, it's that it stirs that creative side and that thought provoking side to say, oh, I never would have asked myself this question.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
love that.
yeah, and I think that's the whole point of it. And like you said, we don't have the vocabulary, we don't have the words, we don't have, but if we can just write it down,
Yes.
look at it. And sometimes I think it's just simply what actually happened.
Right.
And how did this make me feel? And then go from there. And the other piece I think about journaling too is it is not only when there's an issue.
Right.
Journaling is you want to journal too when everything's going right. So later, if there becomes an issue, you can go back to, okay, well, this is what I was doing when stuff was working. Okay,
Right.
so I need to go back to doing some of those things. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think, sometimes journaling gets this misconception is only if you feel bad or only if you got some. No, it's for any time that
Right.
you want to put something down to remember, good, bad, indifferent, but not only for the bad. And so that was an important piece for me to, make sure people understand too. But doing
So
that, go ahead.
so I was going to ask you, and then we can segue back into your journey. So because you use that as an outlet that helped you, that you discovered, is that something that you also encouraged your children to do during the time once you found it, or did it take some time, or have you? Because
I
I know you have their own experience as well, right?
Yeah. With my children, I have encouraged them to journal. None of
Mhm.
them do, but they all have journals
Right.
too. And actually I remember one of my sons, he told me this was a few years back. He's like, "Yeah, I wrote about what happened." And he was like, I don't know, he was mad at me for something. I was thinking like, "Okay, good job." But the way he said it was like, all right, bro, like relax. Like, you know,
Right, right, right.
like it's just putting me on notice. I'm like,
Yeah, like like I got this documentation in there
yeah,
that
yeah,
can
yeah.
come up in court.
Yeah, I'm like,
Right.
okay. Yeah. So um the thing I think the thing with the kids is for me, they picked up the other thing I like, and that's reading. And so they all read, they all enjoy reading. So that's good enough for me, you
Right,
know?
right. You can't have it all, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Just keep it moving.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, but
So
I did try.
how did you, so you found your outlet. So how did you then, so your co-parent partner, she moved out of state,
Mhm.
your weekends were taken away. How did you go from there, and how did you guys partner? Or did you did 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 you have some roadblocks? What did you have to learn? What was the trial and error process in that?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot. I think the most interesting thing I learned during that process is because she kind of, uh, for lack of a better word, she kind of was off the scene for a while.
Mhm,
I mean, she's in California. She's gonna call and check every, when she can, whatever. But I mean, it was just us at that point, just me
mhm,
and the kids. So that's how it was. She always kept me updated on like what was going on with her. But she was figuring herself out, And
mhm,
during that time period, I was I was figuring myself out. I was, figuring out what it's like to do this full time.
yeah,
Um, Figuring out the right type of jobs that I can work and still not have them in daycare all day and be able to, get home. So I'm trying, figure out career wise what I'm doing. All types of things is going on. Um, and then, after a year, yeah, a year and some change or something, I decided to try to date.
mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
I was gonna ask you about that. How that went.
yeah. So, and I'm extra. I couldn't just do it regular. I had to, I had to try to date a woman from that didn't live in Seattle. She lived in New York. And so she comes to visit, and the kids aren't around. I think my parents had them or something. So she comes to hang out. I show her Seattle, and she's like,
Mhm,
this is cool. Um, and so then we decide. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I got the kids. I'm doing my thing. Um, I figure this was my thought process. I need a helpmate. So I'm like, I'm about to, so we gonna do this. Uh, she moves down here, and this is where I learned a very valuable lesson this was part of my trial, is just because you are okay with the other parent, dating who they want, living
mhm.
a life, doesn't mean they're going to do the same for you. And so, you know, it caught me, like, her response caught me completely off guard. It was
Mhm.
like she was like, it was almost like, I can't believe you decided you want to date, you want to have a woman. Like, I'm like, what is going on right now? But
Right.
but what I learned from that is, and this I didn't learn this till, years later, was
Right. It wasn't that moment.
yeah, one, you need to prepare. So you might, what the situation should have been, not get permission, prepare.
Mhm.
So in that moment, what I should have did before is to say, hey, you know what, I'm moving on. This is what this is gonna look like. And then get her response. Allow her to tell you whatever her response is going to be. And so now you have that. Okay, this person, okay, right now they're not handling this the best.
Mhm.
Okay. So then you have in the back of their mind, okay, in the back of your mind, um, they might talk some stuff, do some irrational stuff right now, but at least I know it's possible that this is possibly what is going to come. And
Right.
so I can handle that better. I can manage. I think I think with single parent, well, I mean, when you're dealing with the other parent, when you guys stop being together, you're now managing the relationship. You're
Mhm.
managing, and it's going to go through what you need to manage depends on what season or what space you guys are in.
That's good. Yeah.
And so I didn't manage what the situation was. And so she was able to, throw me completely off. And so when she threw me completely off, that's not what you want to happen towards the beginning. And so then it's a fighting battle. And then you got other issues that she didn't have nothing to deal with. She didn't have nothing to do with, but you kind of, when you are in a new situation, you kind of see the issues that you had. And so some of
Right.
those started coming up too. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not ready to do this yet.
Right.
And so that situation did not work. And but I learned a lot. I learned about, myself. I learned, okay, I still got some work to do on me. It's not this,
Mhm.
she was the wrong one. It wasn't her.
Right.
It was me too. It was
Right.
both of us. And
So so you're saying it wasn't the girl you were dating, or it wasn't your ex.
no, it wasn't my ex-wife. It was,
Okay.
I mean, the mother of my kids. It was
Yes.
it was me and her. And so
Right. Right.
I was focused on the her part
Right.
instead of focusing on the me part. And then when I got
Right.
with the new woman, it was okay, my crap, my baggage from the previous marriage that I didn't think about or really process and all
Mhm.
of that stuff, plus the crap that just comes from being in a relationship, plus
Mhm.
the crap of having a partner who doesn't have any kids,
Right.
and now trying to help you with 4 kids when they went from not having no
And
kids.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
that's a lot,
And
know.
so, how did you decide? At what point did you decide that it was okay for her to meet the kids? And was that a point of contention when your ex found out that your new girlfriend met the kids? Was that a point of contention? I think no.
No, because I don't like. Okay, here's the thing. I feel like, and this is, and some people may not believe this, but look, if I have the kids, I think nobody's gonna tell me what to do in my house. Like,
Right.
if you have the kids, if the person has the kids, if
Uh-huh.
the woman has the kids, I don't believe a man. You can say what you would like, but
Yeah.
realistically, you don't have any real ability to tell that woman what she's gonna do in her home. You
Yeah.
don't. So
Mhm.
for me, okay, you trusted me with the kids, then you're gonna have to trust me with my decision to, because I'm not gonna put
Mhm.
myself in any certain type of situation. So you're
Right.
gonna have to assume that I wouldn't do that with the kids. But
Right.
I don't think I had that conversation when she first met them. Um, and again, just so I would have known how she would react. I probably
Yeah.
should have, just so I would have known that and then
Ahead of
prepare
time.
for it. Yeah.
Did you ask the kids? Did you like assess with them like once you did the introduction and things of that nature? Did you connect with the kids to see what their thoughts were about you dating and the young lady you were dating? How did you go about that?
Heck no, because I did. Hey, first a couple over two. I mean, 2 out of the 4 were I would think too young to really give me
Okay.
any feedback.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking like, I mean, this is my thought process at that time was a brother need help. Oh, you're like, what a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old gonna tell me right now? I need some help. And so, no, I didn't ask. I
You
was
didn't
like,
ask. Yeah. No, but
no,
I love the perspective that you shared. And I think this is something that, as people tune in and they hear and watch this, I believe at some point people need to understand, like you said, the preparation and not trying to think about it from an approval perspective. Like there's a just natural consideration that whether you're with the parent of the partner that you had your children with or you're not, if we can do basic consideration things, it really does help. Sometimes it is hindsight is 2020. You can see it, but sometimes you live and you learn. But I love that you said I didn't even think about connecting because I've been allowing her autonomy and supporting her and not being in her space or her business. So I feel like that should be an easy reciprocation moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's not, it is like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
wait 1 second. I understand what just happened, right? I'm not in your business. I don't ask any questions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I do whatever whatever floats your boat still happens, your boat's still floating.
Yeah.
But now I'm trying to get this boat moving, right? And now you
trying to get this boat going.
you paddling.
Yeah.
And she's like, pump your brakes, sir. This is not the Love Boat. You will not be going still.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you said that because I think that's something that both men and women should consider. Like, I'm not trying to seek her approval. So maybe that would stop people from, having their pride puffed up. I'm not trying to seek approval. I'm trying to prepare because it's a strategy move. It's strategic and it's to, like you said, help mitigate and manage because this is about relationship 101. I'm not trying to create problems where there are none, but I also am not naive that everybody's going to do what I want. So should I see what the response would be from a person? Cool. Okay. I see you. You're not feeling this. It don't mean I ain't going to go forward, but I see what I'm working with. Yeah. I love that you call that out. I think that's
and I think what it allowed me to see too is that situation allowed me to prepare for any future situations. Like once I saw, okay, this is how this is how you're gonna maneuver. Okay, when I'm in another situation, I'm going to have to maneuver a different way, or not maneuver a different way, but just understand. Okay, this is kind of the energy you give when this type of thing. No matter what your situation is, this is the energy you give. So I know this now, and I will definitely act accordingly.
Yeah. And the reason why I also asked you about like the did you ask your children, because sometimes I do think that some kids are very perceptive and they feel vibes from for father fathers that's dating and women that are dating. And I probably wouldn't have thought about it myself unless when I was writing the book I really thought about it more, that okay, parents actually asking the children questions or inquiring with them, it really does multiple things. It does what we just talked about, helps them to tap into their emotional intelligence and put words to what they're feeling about their life, right? Because even though we're creating a home for them, they have some some feelings about it, and sometimes we need to course correct that feeling or give them another framework or perspective to think about, so on and so forth. But if we don't ask them, we typically don't know, and they have it. And then when they go to the other parent's house, sometimes that parent is, they're like, hey, tell me what's going on in that. Tell me
Oh
what's
yeah.
happening, and I'm gonna tell you. And then they start influencing. I'm gonna tell you what's happening. Don't nobody care about you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we have to sometimes ask questions. And I didn't think about how important that was until I was writing and really thinking about, man, I wish someone would have asked me more.
Yeah.
Right? Because had they asked me more, I would have shared more. But I went with the philosophy, what goes on in this house stays in this house. I want to
Mhm.
protect what's here. I don't want to be a problem, because I know my parents, my mom, really not my parents, my mom's going through some things. And
Mhm.
kids typically, they try to conform to what seems healthy and what's going to help the situation as much as possible. But they have their own feelings that they're kind of like grappling with as well.
Mhm.
But they, because we sometimes tell kids, you'll get over it. But sometimes
Yeah.
just like investing that time to ask questions. I didn't know if that was something that was explored. Now, did the kids go visit their mom a lot while?
No, not during this time. They
Okay.
hadn't seen her for during this time. They probably hadn't seen her for a couple years at this point.
So
Uh,
how did you deal with that? Did they ask questions of you of like,
uh,
where's mom at? How, why don't we see her? How did you deal with that?
I when she moved, you know, I think when she moved, we took her to the airport, so they knew where she was going. They knew she was leaving, and
Mhm.
then when she called, I let them
Have their own
communicate with her, talk to
time.
her. I don't believe in I didn't believe in keeping
Yeah.
them, because if it kind of goes back to what you were just saying, when we ask kids, and when we don't give them that space to
Yes.
share what's going on, they create their own stories. And
That's
so
right.
for me, I don't want you to create a story about what you think is going on. I'm gonna give you access so you
Yeah.
can see for yourself, so like, because
Mhm.
you can go telling yourself, if I was like, okay, well, until you get your stuff together or whatever, you can't
Right.
talk to kids, then they're gonna create the story. Oh, my dad kept my mom away, and this is why, which is not true. So
Yeah.
I gave her, you call, you want to talk to him, cool, no
Yeah.
problem, talk to him.
Now,
But
I'm
yeah.
gonna I'm gonna ask you another question. You don't have to answer this. I don't know if I asked you this before, but like this is something we've talked about on previous episodes, where sometimes we feel where the role is reversed. Women will say, well, if he can't, kind of the same thing you said, well, if you're not here, you can't talk to kids, you're not, or if you're not financially providing or doing things like that, then you don't have a right to actually talk to the kids and have any access to the kids. How was that for for you? Were you financially, was that something that you had to like bear on your own, or is that something that legally, that the courts, child support or something like that, or did you guys kind of partner and manage it? How did you work that situation out?
So she was I mean, she was supposed to pay child support.
Mhm.
It didn't happen too often, because her situation, she wasn't always working, so it was always like, if it came, great, but if not, it is, I was gonna have to figure it out either way, so it kind of just is what it is.
Mhm.
Now, I do believe that it again, it goes back to when people say, if the person isn't paying child support, if the person isn't saying doing this, once you had a kid with that person, you are now a manager. Your job is to manage that relationship, whether they are paying or they are not.
Yeah.
If as long as you guys have a child together, there should be some input. And you honestly, if people really thought about the fact that this child is going to create a story, and
Yes.
you may be the martyr in the story if you do not
Mhm.
allow what, that other person to them to see, good, bad, or indifferent, what that other person is,
Yes.
you're just setting yourself up for things you don't have to go through in the long run.
Yeah.
If they could just see, okay, this is him, this is what he's not, this is who he is, and make their own decision, or see
Yeah.
who she is, who she's not, and make their own decision, it is much better for everybody involved in the long run. Like,
Yes.
so much better.
It is. I agree. I agree because I think that it really does allow you to provide the support that you need to for your kids.
Mhm.
It's real life, right?
Mhm.
When your kids go somewhere where outside of your area, your sphere of influence,
Mhm.
they experience someone. When they experience someone that has authority or maybe impactful to their lives, you would hope that they could come back to you as a sounding board to say, hey, this is what this person did, or I don't like this. And then they can really use you to as a sounding board to not try to push your own agenda, but
Yeah.
actually listen to them. But if you, to your point, have already put up parameters and like blocks, or try to skew the narrative, saying, I don't know why you want to go with your dad, or why you want to go with your mom, she ain't been here, da 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 da.
Mhm.
Then when they encounter something that's bad with her, or good, it could be good or bad, like you said earlier
Mhm.
about something else, they'll not feel as comfortable coming back to you. Because what if they had a great time with her? They're like, oh, dad already said I don't want him to feel a certain kind of way, so I'm not going to tell him I had an amazing time with her.
Yeah.
Or, oh, dad had said that she was struggling. Uh, I didn't feel comfortable, but I don't want him to cut her off, so I'm not gonna. So you do more harm than good if you don't, as a parent, wherever, if you don't learn how to create a safe space, as challenging as it may be,
Mhm.
because man, they're gonna let him down, or they may not come through for this kid, and
Mhm.
I'm just tired of the inconsistency. Sometimes they have to experience that, but they need that support so that you can journey with them through that and say, hey, let me help you. Let me help you put words to this. Like we
Mhm.
talked about before. Let me
Uh,
help you. What is the emotional piece let's talk about that type of thing, because that's really what they need as they grow up. But we don't realize that sometimes, as adults, that they need that. We feel like, oh, let's safeguard and protect, because we're mama bear or papa bear. We're like, look here, you ain't gonna keep coming in and out of here. Like
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, right, 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 right.
I'm the one he or she is crying to. Get your
Yeah,
life together, right? And
yeah,
then the kid is like, and sometimes the kid then say, oh man, I shouldn't have told mom and dad that.
yep.
I'm not gonna get but because even though they may be as imperfect as they may be, the kid, there's something about them in that they still desire that
Yeah.
relationship.
They're half of that person. Like if you're 50% of somebody, you like,
Right.
you're half of that person. So of course you're gonna have desire something, a relationship with that person,
Yes.
something you just need to know for yourself. I mean, how many times in life have we been like, somebody done told us, hey, you shouldn't do that? Well, we had to find out for us, and we still did it because we had to find out for ourselves. And
Right.
sometimes, children are the same way, or else they create these stories about and fantasize that person into this, more amazing or less amazing person than they are. And then when they actually get to experience them, they're looking back at you like, why didn't you allow me to experience it sooner? Good, bad, or indifference.
Right.
And now Jimmy hates you, and you still mad
Right.
at Jimmy's daddy. But all of this could have been prevented if you just allowed access, despite your feelings about
Yes.
him,
Yes.
because you had a kid with him. So now you're a manager.
Right.
Put
And
your
that's
manager badge on.
look, hello, right? Because we talk I think I highlight this in the book too, which is like, kids are an investment. You are literally partners, right?
Yep.
It is a mutual partnership in business. We know you want a ROI. What is your return on your investment?
Yeah.
Well, the reality is that both of you have to invest. And if one invests more than the other, they have more influence typically at
Mhm.
some point in time in your life. But if you both invest, the
Mhm.
maturity of that investment will go to, places and spaces that you guys can't imagine with investment from both.
Mhm.
But there are, again, times where we don't think about the investment. We don't think about it really is a partnership.
Mhm.
And to your once you have a child, you can't say, you know what, I'm opting out. I mean, you can opt you can opt out, but there are going to be impacts to that. And
Mhm.
the impacts, whether they're direct or indirect, are going to be far beyond anything you can imagine.
Yeah.
Far beyond anything you can imagine. And let me read this because I agree with Almond Glaze. I am blown away by Jalal's maturity and perspective on fatherhood. Me too. Very refreshing. Me too. This is what I was saying, y'all. No, it is it is so encouraging, and it's like she said, very refreshing, because I think that it sounds like even just some of the things you said, you didn't know who your biological father was, right?
Mhm.
Did you remind us? I know you said you had your stepfather. Um, when did he come into your life?
When
Was
I
it
was 10 years old. I was 10
10?
years old. Mhm.
Okay. And so did you, and this is what I started asking, because I'm into, the title of the book is Biological and Bonus. Did you
Yeah.
feel like your stepfather was a bonus to your life?
Um, yes, but in a sense that, I mean, I feel like he was my dad because I
Okay.
didn't have, so he didn't even have to me, the bonus part never even played a role once we established our relationship.
Yeah.
He was just my dad. I don't have, I don't have, but I still, it was interesting. I see him still to this day as my dad, but
Mm-hmm.
I still did probably about 15 years ago try to look for my dad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote a letter because they said we knew somebody that worked at Social Security. They said if you write a letter and send it to Social Security for somebody who's on Social Security, they'll forward it to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so me and my sister, we had wrote a letter, and we never got a response back. So I don't know if he never got it. I don't know,
So
whatever.
So look, this is what I'm gonna do. After this, I'm gonna forward you the same information that was given to me, right?
Okay.
So you remember when we started talking and how I started this, I didn't know who my biological father was.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like now, 3 weeks ago, thanks to this private investigative group,
Hmm.
um, they found my biological father just like that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just okay. So let me. So maybe in July, before I was going to Seattle with the family,
Mhm,
I said that I did Ancestry and 23andMe, and
mhm,
it didn't really do anything, right? It didn't
mhm,
give me
mhm,
any information. Someone was listening, which was my daughter's best friend's mom.
mhm.
She then called me and said, "Hey, say here's a contact." And they'll do it for you. They work with you for free. So that was my next thing. How much is it gonna cost, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Look, I already spent this 200 and some plus on these Ancestry and 23andMe,
yeah.
right? And
Uh-huh.
so anyway, they an amazing group of women. They have different skill sets that in their professional world,
Mhm,
from being genetic genealogists and other spaces, able to have they have access to insight and legal documents as well. So they're able to help really pull everything together.
mhm,
They typically will ask you, what information you have, right?
mhm, mhm,
I only had 23andMe and Ancestry.
mhm,
That's all I had. But whatever you have, they do kind of like a talk through and ask you about that. And then based on what you share, they the only thing they ask is that you give them a little bit of time, because they have their regular jobs. It's not like paid.
yeah.
But let me tell you, by the time I gave them the information on Monday, right? Monday, I said they asked me something about my mom, my grandmother, which I was like, oh, I know that side. I wonder why they're asking that. I gave it to them on Monday. By Wednesday, they called me. They had my whole family tree on my father's side filled out and my mother's side. It was
Wow.
amazing. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
and was able to give me like social media
Mhm,
contact. And then after that, they said, hey, would you like us to reach out to them? or how would you like to make the connection? We can reach out on your behalf because we have like the information that they may be curious about.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're welcome to here's some information. And so I did ask them to do it, but once I looked at the social media stuff they gave me in the profiles, I realized we had common people
Mm-hmm.
in place. And and the first person that I called, that was you know how Facebook has mutual friends with these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like another bonus mom to me. So I called her and I said, hey, I finally found out who my bonus dad was. I mean, not my biological dad was. And she goes, who? And I said his name. And she goes, I just got off the phone with his sister, Felicia. And I was like, are you serious? She was like, yeah. Oh, I'm calling her. And so I didn't have an option or the ability to let the private investigator.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll share more, but I'll share that with you.
Okay.
And so, and then I'll just send that to you, and then you just reach out to them and say, hey, Fashay recommended me to reach out. Here's what I have.
Okay.
And they'll ask you what, and they're really, really just, they're really a good group of women that have a lot of passion and skill set to really pull things together. That real even they even revealed that who my mom and my aunt and uncle thought was my mom's father, it wasn't his father, and like more about my heritage. And I was like, wow, this was like more and more information. And so I said I was going to share some more on another episode, but I just want to make sure that my biological father and his family, he's passed, but he has daughters and some other parts of the story that I don't want to blow up anybody's spot just because I'm,
yeah,
make the connection. So I gotta, let that do what it does. But anyway, I'll share that with you. But coming back to that, kind of the same sentiments of I was blessed with bonus dads, and those were some men that dated my mom, some men that didn't. So I haven't felt a lack. I really haven't. I felt like God has really blessed me. I haven't ever felt like a fatherless daughter. I really haven't. So, but just the some of the health things that I was going through earlier this year did have a lot of questions about what I was predisposed to. And then as I thought about my own kids, like they should know, like if there's more information I could find out about, like stuff it's not even only relationships. There's genetics, there's health, there's a ton of other things. And I may not ever know that, but it won't be because I didn't try.
Yeah.
And that's really why I decided to go ahead, even after the daggone results came back with nothing. I almost was like, this is worthless. I think I even said that on the show. But then God checked me real quick and was like, but I tried, right? The investment was worth the try. And after I said that, he was like, and look, boom, it wasn't for nothing because someone was listening. These things happened for this reason. And so I think that sometimes when we feel like, oh, I'm curious to make the connection with our biological father or mother, people automatically assume that's what we had wasn't good enough. No, sometimes it's just a matter of curiosity, and everybody should know who they're connected to, period. It's just really what should be, there should not even, and I know people talk about this as well, especially women struggle with being very forthcoming with who the paternity is for different children out of shame or some decisions they made, but it's bigger than you, right? It's bigger than you. And sometimes you kind of got to build a bridge and get over yourself. And sometimes if you allow the kids enough time or the young adults enough time, they will too. But everybody should know their identity, as best as possible.
Yeah, yes. I definitely agree with that. And that's amazing that they were able to do that and find them for you. That's amazing.
Yes. So hey, listen, I'm just saying it was surprising. I'll go ahead and pass the information on. And that's what they say. They said, hey, Shay, if there's anybody else that you think may be in need or interested, definitely pass our information on. So don't feel listen, right when my friends gave it to me the next morning, I said, hello, this is Fashay Hallie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, get right to it. So I'll send you that information. But let me ask you, what? So you've had a long journey with your kids. So if you can just share with us, what are some of the joys and some your top three joys and, let's say, fears about fatherhood that you had even in the past or now, or both?
Yeah. When I think of, I I think my top three joys is just one of them is when I think back to some of the times and just the time period, the time and experience that we had, you know, before and after the transition. Like my kids didn't lose their joy, they didn't lose their desire to have fun, they didn't lose any of that. You know,
Mhm,
they still remain, we still laugh, we still played together, we still did these things.
mhm,
Um, and I think those are the things in particular that I think of it as in one moment.
mhm.
Another moment, being that I only had one daughter, when me and her used to dance around the house, listen to uh, this song by Fergie, "Glamorous."
Oh yeah,
That used to be our, yeah, I love. We danced
yeah.
around the house, you know, to that song. And I think another one with my daughters, I remember very distinctly after their mom had left, when she had decided, I think she was like 5 or 6 or something like that. She decided, look, you're not picking out my clothes anymore. I got this. You know, like she was just like, look. She's been very much her, you know, pretty self-sufficient in that area, but just her thought process, like, yeah, you know, I think I can do this. Like, and I'm thinking, you know, here I am thinking I'm dressing her all fresh and all that, you know, but she's like,
She's like, "I know, sir."
yeah, like, nah, I got this. I got this. I got this. And I think with the boys, just I think some of my biggest joys is just seeing them just grow in general, just
Mhm.
grow in to and finding their own style. All my boys, they have their own style of dress, the way they, you know, carry themselves. It's like, okay, it's not wouldn't necessarily be my style, but I respect that this is your style and how you
Right.
want to maneuver and do your thing. And I think that when I look at them, it's like, okay, I see you becoming an individual. I see
Mhm.
you, um, you know, trying to establish your own autonomy and,
Yeah.
you know, how you represent yourself and how you
Mhm.
look and different things like that. So I think those are some of my, I mean, and just their personalities. My oldest son, when we talk about fear, I would say with my oldest son, we still haven't got to that place where our relationship is repaired.
Mhm.
And um I have, you know, reached out, I have attempted to do that, but there's some block there for him right now. And so I don't know what that is,
Right.
but um my I think my fear would be that my only fear is when it comes to like that situation is him realizing, you know, too late, you know, after I'm gone, that I was actually still here and available to him
Mhm.
now and open to repair, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so that is one of my, you know, my fears when I think about that relationship. And I think another one is when I think about just parenting in a vacuum when it comes to my kids, even in my blended family, I heard Eddie Murphy say this in the last Beverly Hills Cops, and he asked his daughter, he said, "How old are you?" And then she told him her age. He said, "I've been a parent just as long as you've been alive." You
Yep.
know what, you know, and so as a parent, there are times where I did what I knew in that moment,
Right.
but as I've grown and matured in these things, I'm doing, I'm gonna do something different in another moment.
Mhm.
But my fear is that if they don't talk to me about a moment, that happened whenever, they'll be stuck telling themselves a story that is unnecessary for their and won't aid them in their life's growth, becoming the best version of themselves because they decided to keep telling themselves a story. So my fear is just, you know, they won't tell me some of these things and I won't know when I could
Right.
have just had the conversation and be like, oh, is that what you, oh, okay. Well, sorry that, that is how you felt. That was definitely not how I intended it. I would have
Yeah.
liked that to happen. Or, you know what, this is how you felt, but this is what actually happened in this situation and just clarify it.
Right.
Um,
Right. No,
and
that's good. That's good.
yeah. And then the, I think the last one is just for me, my biggest fear is just not feeling like, not say I didn't do enough, but I don't want to feel like there was something I knew I could do and
Mhm.
I didn't do, you
Mhm.
know? And so um it makes me constantly think about this parenting thing and, you know, try to make adjustments and see what those adjustments look like. And then if that adjustment doesn't work, okay, like go back to the drawing board and try to
Mhm.
figure out, what the
Mhm.
next thing looks like. And then just say, keep telling myself, hey, I'm showing up,
Right.
I'm doing my best.
Yes.
And some days it still doesn't feel great. And
Mhm.
and other days, I feel like I got this. I finally got this. It's just but allowing myself to go through that process, but making sure that I do the things that I know to do so that I don't have the fear of feeling like I left things undone that I could have done.
Yeah. I love how you kind of went through that process. I think like Almond Glaze shared and how I shared earlier, what is so phenomenal about you and some of the other guys that I interviewed, I thought, man, uh, it helped me learn a lot by just hearing your thoughts all the way through. Like you really going through, okay, here are some of my fears, right? My relationship with my children matter, right? So even though my kids may be doing some things, my son may be going through his journey, that impacts me. Being transparent with that was like, wow, I can feel that, right? Because in listening to what makes you fearful or apprehensive or concerned in your place as a father makes me as a mother and a woman understand that really what we deal with,
Mhm.
we're connected. We both have fears. We both have apprehensions. We both have things that we struggle with in this parenting journey. And if I sit and I listen and I hear it, then there are things that maybe I can relate to that can help you, and things that you're dealing with that you found joy in, and I haven't found a way to find joy in that part because I'm still fearful over here, that you can share. It's that exchange of insight and experience, and just to hear fathers actually really say these things matter to me. Like, I'm not, it's not only about providing, it's not only about the financial, right? They're really how they view me, how they experience me as a father matters to me, right? And the extra pressure of the world, and as it relates to what fathers should be doing, that also weighs on me. And then as a man that's trying to figure it out, like it feels like I should know how to do all these pieces, but I'm learning as I'm going. And sometimes I'm moving and I don't have the time to assess, right? Pause and assess and then reapply and then go back and apologize or really give a different perspective on things without feeling like, man, don't y'all see I'm doing the best I can?
Yeah.
Right. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so just to hear you kind of just go through and say, hey, I have this struggle where I realize, okay, my relationships matter, and I understand that my oldest son is going through some things, and I want him to see me and see that I'm still here and we can work through this, and that is my prayer and my desire. But I have to let him have his process, right?
Mhm.
Because that's a part of his maturity and his growth experience. And then even with you trying to figure out, okay, so how do I actually manage the other dynamics as a father of, did I get this wrong? Did I maximize every opportunity? But then allowing yourself to come back to say, but let me check it, let me do this checks and balance.
Mhm.
Yes, I did this and I did this and I did this. That didn't feel great. Right. And I think that your journaling process and really finding, if everybody doesn't journal, that's fine. Whatever works for you, what I'm hearing you say, find a way to be able to reflect and assess. But in that reflection and assessment process, don't have it be too one-sided, because I heard you say, I'm not feeling, this was not great, I didn't maximize this moment. But then you're like, but wait, I made it happen this day.
Yeah.
I was like top notch. Okay, this other day it was bad. So really, like, the peaks and valleys um all have purpose, but it can be skewed if you don't take the time to really have the right perspective
Yeah.
when you do it. And I like that you give yourself permission to go through that process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's an important one. It's a part of just the maturation process as a human. Like, even if
Mhm.
you take parent, we're doing this in every other area of our lives too,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
just the process. And I do want to touch on the piece about I'm sure I'll wrap up here soon, but I want to touch on the piece about blended families, because I think that
Yes.
there is some conversation around that, especially if you are a father, right? If you are a father and you do not have your children, and you are now in a blended family where you are there being present for someone
Mhm.
else's children.
Mm.
Um, I want to, speak. That is not exactly my situation. I mean, well, I mean, two of mine are in the house and two of mine aren't. Um, so one of the things, well, actually, I'm going to touch on something you said earlier. In this, I told you I did not talk to the children the first time,
Right.
but before me and Shay got married, we
Mhm.
talked to the children. Like, we
Yes.
had that conversation with the children. We got their input on both sides on, okay, this is what we're gonna do. What you guys' thought process, and what
Mhm.
does this look like? Um, we did all that. And on the back end, I did have conversations with um my my children's mom about, okay, this is the direction I'm going. And
Mhm.
it's still it still was one of those things, like, this is where I'm going. It wasn't necessarily a thing where I'm, you know, I'm gonna make this super easy for you, but
Right.
I hear what you're saying. It was more like that type of situation. I can see you're going this direction regardless of what I say or do. But boom, and so I definitely did that this time. So I learned some things, Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
but what I think
Hold
the
on one
part.
second, Jalil.
Okay.
You are freezing up. Not your
Oh,
voice. Your voice is coming through, but your
okay,
camera's freezing
okay.
periodically. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, oh, oh.
Give us 1 second, family, and then we'll get going again. Hopefully you all are enjoying this and getting some good insight. I am. I love just hearing different perspectives, and just really highlighting the fact that uh, learning and hearing about Jalal and how he and his family um, have decided to go through their journey is just another example of all men don't process this the same way. All men, um, there are men out here that want to be involved. There are men that are out here that want to be engaged in their children's lives. There are men that will step up, right? Because sometimes in society today, we hear a lot about how, women hold it down, and we do, and we have, but there are also men out there that are holding it down. There are also men out there that are trying to be engaged and trying to do the best they can, to find their way. And again, those are the narratives and the examples that we need to share and shine more light on, because sometimes when we see it, it's easier to say, okay, well, there are other guys out there. Or even as Jalal was sharing, and I hope everything reconnects so he can share about some insight about if you are part of a blended family and you are a father to someone else, some other children that are not yours. He can give some insight about tips on what you should consider. Because again, if you haven't done it before and you don't have a blueprint, sometimes it's hard. You have a lot of trial and errors, right? But if you can learn from someone else, there's a quote that says, oh man, I hope I get this right. Sometimes my memory gets things right when I go to recall a quote, and sometimes it's a little shaky. Okay. But I think it is wisdom is when we learn from other people's mistakes. To be smart is to learn from our own mistakes. And to be foolish is to not learn from anything. I think I'm getting it wrong, but that's the concept, right? If we can take somebody else's blueprint, and if you know the right quote, put it in the comments, because I might be off, but but the point is, if you can take from someone else and you can apply it and learn it and use it without having to go through it, that is wise. You you don't have to actually learn from your own mistakes. Obviously, life is not like that all the time, because I've learned, I saw my sister go through something or my friend go through something. I don't have to repeat that. It doesn't make any sense for me to do that if I've learned from what they've gone through. Of course, if I make my own mistakes, hopefully I learn from it. But if I don't learn from others or myself, then that is foolish of me. And I'll tend to repeat things over and over again. But hopefully we get Jalal back on, because I want him to continue. But while he's away, I will share. There was a question I was going to ask him, and I'll go ahead and ask him, ask the question. But you see here, oh, hold on. Maybe that way. Highlighted area, those were Jalal's responses to some of the questions that I asked him regarding what are his top 3 advice nuggets that he would give to other men about fatherhood. And so I'll go ahead and read the 3 that he shared with me from the book. Number 1, he says, say sorry when you're wrong and mean it. Our kids already know what the deal is, and most of the time, they're just waiting to see how we actually hold ourselves accountable. Show them that it's okay to acknowledge and own your own mistakes at any age. He then said also, and this is to fathers, but it's to mothers as well. I believe it can go for any of us. 2, second point of advice, continue to learn. We as parents need to continue to learn about all things, especially when it comes to having business savvy. We need to invest our time, money, and attention into reading good books so that we can teach our kids and encourage them to do the same. So it sounds like he's already shared with us before that even though the kids haven't picked up journaling, they do read. And so that was something that was very important to Jalal as well, was making sure that his kids had proper exposure. And he said literacy was very important to him. And because it can take you to places and spaces that you may not actually get to experience, but you get to learn through other people's experience and then apply it in your own life as you feel it is relevant. And then 3 was don't try to mold your kids into a version of you. Our kids don't need to become us. They should be who they were designed to be. Our job is simply to provide them with exposure, support, and sometimes other resources that will help them thrive. And so I thought that was amazing as well. That was on page 77 of the book, where he gives his input on that particular question. But again, I think we heard him share that in the conversation, which was when he was talking about his kids, his sons having their own style. He was very big on don't try to duplicate yourself in your own children. And I think any of us as parents can relate to that, because sometimes we can see ourselves in our children and we'll get worried if it wasn't something good, right? That they're going to repeat our mistakes. Sometimes we try to live through our kids vicariously and try to make them be what we want it to be or what we think they should be. And obviously there are boundaries to that whole experience as well. But you there, Jalal?
Yes, I cannot come back on camera because when I was trying to switch it,
Uh-huh.
my phone fell and broke.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh. Okay, well, it's all good. Well, you go ahead. I won't keep you too long. I went ahead and read your responses on the advice you gave to people.
uh,
Um, well, the advice you gave me,
uh,
three advice nuggets that you gave to fathers about fatherhood from the
yeah.
book. It was page 77. I don't know if you remember what you told me, but I remember which ones you shared. And so I went ahead and shared it with the people here. So so that they had that. But I do want you, if you don't mind, continue real quick, if you don't
Mhm.
mind, what you feel that men need to know if they are in the house and they're going to be a bonus uh, in a blended family, and they're going to be a father to children that are not theirs.
Yeah, I think that there's a few things to know. One of them is just if you really you could take the pressure off yourself by understanding exactly what your role is. And your role, you're not in a replacement business, you're in the addition business. So if
Mm,
you're there to be an addition, well, an addition already acknowledges that there's something there. There's already something there. So you're
mhm,
not competing at that point. You are just there to provide assistance to help this child grow into becoming whoever they're supposed to be. And it may be one of those jobs that you may it can be a thankless job, because when
mhm,
that child grows up, and it's time to walk down the aisle. If it's a girl, it's time for her to walk down the aisle to her wedding. She still may prefer her biological dad, and you were
mhm,
the one there and did all. But this is reality. These things happen. You're and I say this to myself, nothing that will take away the memories, the lessons learned, the stories that you will experience on this journey. Those are the rewards. It's not you know, to feel like that if they didn't do this your certain way, or they didn't, you know, take the pressure off yourself. This is really, an experience. You're doing this for the experience and stories of life, not to, replace anyone. Because I think when you get in the replacement business, you
mhm,
start comparing, you start competing, and
mhm.
all of these things are not helpful for you in the long run or the kid.
Yes, that's good. Yes, I love that. Yeah, because competing and comparing definitely steals the joy out of all experiences.
Yeah.
really, it distorts the perspective because it's unnecessary expectations, like you said. And it really, I love your description also that you're not in the replacement business, but you're in the addition business. Man, you should have said that in the interview, dude, so that I could have put that in here because that's what this is all about. This,
Yeah.
no, I'm just playing, but no, that's what bonus is, right? To
Yeah.
because it's an addition, but
Mhm.
I love the core message, which is acknowledging who you are and what you add in your role and where you can actually add value. But that allows you to really take inventory of yourself, assess the situation, and
Mhm.
again, remove yourself out of the competition, but say, hey, this is what I have to add and offer, and then watch it grow from there. I love that.
Yeah, and to me, I had to, because these are things I thought I knew, but I
Hmm.
didn't really know it until I got into the, our blended family. I'm like, okay, well, I come in here at the beginning. I had all okay, you know, things is go. The man is here. Things is gonna be like this, or things is gonna be
Uh-huh.
like that. And then what I what I end up seeing is that okay, is that really helpful in the long run? Am I creating more work and problems for myself going about it this way?
Hmm.
And, you know, I was like, okay, I gotta chill and, pull it back a little bit. And then when I was able to pull it back, I actually, have enjoyed myself more in the
Your own.
process
Yeah.
of uh, being and dealing, within our family, because I've allowed myself that space. Now, the other piece of this is you it works both ways. This is not if you have children outside the home, your blended family, the children you have in your blended family do not replace them. They are
Hmm.
still a part of you, and you
Hmm.
still have to figure out how to manage those relationships also.
Right.
And
Invest in those. Yeah.
yeah, invest in those, manage those, and you know that's gonna look different for everybody. And
Yes.
if you are in a situation where you're not able to be in your child's life for whatever the reason may be,
Hmm.
you still need to hold space in your heart for that child, and you just acknowledge that this is the season you're in. This is not the forever. This is just the season you're in right now. So you don't feel guilty about
Hmm.
being available and present where you're at in your home, but you also step back and be able to look at the other piece and say, okay, this is just a season we're in.
Hmm.
So I'm going to, learn, grow. So when I can reinvest in that relationship, it'll look better, it'll look different, it'll look, whatever, because all these lessons I'm learning right now instead of, well, I don't want to pour here
Right.
because I can't pour there. And,
Yes.
that just, you got
Yeah.
to pour where you're at till you can pour where else you need to.
Right. And that great insight again, because I even see how the journaling process or writing things, you know, keeping inventory about your journey, which is journaling, uh,
Mhm.
uh, could help you in that space, right? And it also could serve as a point of reference for your children in the future. So, for example, um, there was one situation where I learned when I was in Seattle, I did a podcast with dads, which is a nonprofit organization in Seattle, and they were telling me about a young lady who has works with another group here, which in Oklahoma, called Fatherhood. I think it may be called something else. I don't want to misquote, but anyway, she got started because her father didn't have access to her because her mother did not make it feasible, and she was told her father did not want to really be engaged. He had his own life, another family, and did not want to be connected to her. Long
Mhm.
story short, her father ended up getting sick. He always put on his documentation his daughter as a point of contact if
Mhm.
something happened to him. Anyway, they reached out to her because he always knew where she was, but he just couldn't. It was like he couldn't get access. And when he tried, I think maybe when he tried, the seed had already been planted, whatever. Anyway, so they said he was passing. He ended up passing, and so he had a house, and he had, that still had, things in it. So she was granted access to go in, and she found a ton of stuff. She found her pictures all over his house. She found letters that he would write to her. Some initially had like postage on it that was returned back to him, but she read it and she said she realized how much he loved her. And then of course that made it was happy. She felt good about it, that he loved her so much that he even invested the time to still do that, even though it was not received and it was not actually, fruitful, because it never got to her. But I share that to say that sometimes journaling, kind of like you said, in a season where you may not have access to that child, you could always write and say, okay, so in this space, I know you are where you are, but here's what I would love for you to know at this point, if I had an opportunity to share with you. And it may be months before you ever, just using what your example of, trying to allow your son space, right? When you're journaling, and I'm just using this as an example, you may say, hey son, I was thinking about you today. I just hope that you know this, that kind of thing. Kind of like, like you said, the space you're still holding for them in your heart, putting that on paper, because when a time comes, ideally sooner rather than later, and before someone passes or something happens, you can say, hey, I'm so happy we're back together, but I thought about you the entire time. Here's some of my thoughts if you want to check out what I journaled. And it won't be something that you just wrote on,
Yeah.
like, you're like, wait a minute, you just wrote this. I can see I smeared the ink, right?
Yeah.
That's nice. But it is something you don't think about, stuff that is on your heart. How, again, to your point, you're holding space, but while you're holding space, if you want to find a way to verbalize that or get that out in a way that might be helpful to that person, whether it's writing a letter, because that's a lost art we don't do anymore, right? And stuff like that, or to let people noodle on what they're feeling. And like you said, with deciding to release the expectation of response. And I think that's the piece that we forget, even when we're having what's called crucial conversations, where stakes are high, emotions are high, but you still want to preserve the relationship. You sometimes have to go into these situations understanding, what is it that I'm expecting if I do this action? If I do this, I just want to get this out. I want them to know I'm thinking about them. If they don't respond, that's okay. And that's what I also heard you say as a bonus, dad. Hey, I'm going to invest here. Let me level set on what the expectation of return is, so that I don't, so I don't diminish and water down this experience because I had these expectations that I am not speaking about. Because sometimes we don't speak about them, but even the one we speak about, sometimes, like you mentioned, can be a burden, unnecessary burden, because again, why is that even necessary? Why can't you just enjoy the journey and realize that, like, most of the time we're like that with, and I don't mean to be super spiritual, but with the Lord, like, and other people that have invested in us, we sometimes haven't reached back and said thank you. Right. And their life didn't end and they still love us. Right. And so and we know we still are appreciative, but we just didn't tell them, or something happened. Perhaps that's what the children are going through, like extend grace and understand that they're going through some maturity things, and we can and allow them to go through their process. I have to call this one out too. A comment that says, Jalal, he is amazing. Question: do they sell men like him on Amazon?
Nah, they sell his books though.
But this person is asking for a friend. That's what it said. Asking for a friend.
Hey, look, don't have my wife come down here.
She ain't got no problem with it. She ain't mistaken you. She talking about something similar characteristics.
Okay.
Just playing. I'm just playing.
Yeah.
She said she ain't trying to start no smoke. She just trying to see what's available out in these streets. No, but lastly, because I know I've kept you a while, can you just share with us? And in closing, this is the last question, but I also want you to share with us the books, the children books, give some highlights about what those are as well, and you know how it can help other people. But I typically love to ask, what is your legacy statement, right? So kind of, and sometimes when I ask people that, they get kind of confused, like, what do you mean? A lot of companies and people, they have this is my value statement. But a legacy statement is just that, right? What is your legacy? It's not necessarily after you're dead and gone, right? But in places and spaces that you may not go in, or if your children are speaking, hey, this is who my dad is, right? What are some what is that statement, or some of the characteristics that you would like them to highlight?
That this man, he kept learning, growing, and showing up. And he didn't get it right a lot of times, but he kept learning, growing, and showing up. And that, I mean, that's it for me. I think life life is life is life, and it's always gonna be lifing. So you just gotta keep learning, growing, and showing up.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. You know, that's it for me.
Good
Honestly,
deal.
that's it. Yeah.
Well, tell us more about your book. So before you do
Okay.
that, y'all, just make sure you go out and if you haven't subscribed to this channel, Intentional Dads Movement, at symbol Intentional Dads Movement on YouTube, go ahead and do that. And then also check out Jalal's page, or not page, his channel as well. I am Jalal Wilson. And I put that also in the description, but we'll have, can you put that in there? Yeah. We'll put it in the comments as well. But make sure you check out, he already has a ton of good segments out there and videos out there that are extremely helpful. I saw that you still have the one he some time ago, I think it was our first podcast that we did, or interview we did as a couple, Cooley and I. And Jalal interviewed Cooley and I about our relationship, and our journey. So yeah, that's still there. We'll have to snag that and share it on ours too. But yes, and that's when your beautiful wife Shay went ahead and leveraged the best practice. Cooley sent me 21 birthday cards, I remember, for my 21st birthday years ago, and his beautiful wife said, you know what, she tapped in, and for his birthday she put it in place, and it was so wonderful. And hers was really a lot more grand because she had other people participate. She said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do for my boo.
Yeah, she really did. I still have those cards too.
Yes.
Yeah, really
So
did.
she did it, and she was like, hey, can you all mail him card and a special message? I was like, man, that is such a great idea. Maybe I'll have to circle that back around and do something like that for Cooley if he's not listening. But listen, recycle.
Yeah.
I'm just messing around, but yes. So please go out there, check that out. Check out what he has out there. He has a lot of insight about blended families, just his journey experiences and things of that nature, that I think that, again, as Toya so eloquently put here for me, the correct quote, which is a fool never learns. A smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from the mistakes of others. And so if you want to be wise, check out the trials and errors that are shared through Jalal's messages and his the insights that he shares. And I think that's going to be helpful for everyone. And we put the page on in the comments. All right. So Jalal, tell us a little bit more about children's books before we conclude.
Okay. So the children's books were almost like a journal in book form, because what I wanted to do is I knew that season was closing. And so I wanted to kind of wrap up some lessons that I learned during that season as a single father, so that, you know, some other kids that may be in that situation they may find, you know, something in it that they can hold on to in that situation. So the first one is called My Dad Is Not a Mom. And that was based off of, you know, when the kids were younger, there wasn't too many people like them that lived with just their dad. And so they would get
Yes.
asked questions about that a lot. And so,
Hmm.
you know, that's what kind of sparked the idea for that book. And just thinking about it, like, it's okay that I am not your mom. Each family, and I use the analogy of ice cream, each family has this mix of own different flavors.
Hmm.
And it can still be, you know, a wonderful thing. The second book is called My Daughter's Bad Hair Day. And the reason why I ended up writing that book is because I do remember my daughter coming to me to do her hair, and that's not my ministry. And so at all, and I didn't want to learn. Um,
I
yeah,
didn't want to learn. Okay.
yeah, no. So what I did was, I mean, I have a cousin who's a hairdresser, so my cousin ended up taking over, you know, putting her hair in braids and all that stuff. But in the book, it kind of talks about sometimes you have to show up. And so it was me and the boys going with her to the hair salon, and we had to sit there and wait. And the kind of the idea of the book was just showing, you know, sometimes you're not gonna know how to do something. And you know, the people in your life are going to need you to show up for them, even sometimes when it may be inconvenient for you. And
Yeah.
just you know, the power of also community, because it shows my cousin is in the book, her helping with, you know,
Hmm.
get my daughter's hair right. And then even her helping my daughter get perspective and say, hey, you know, he may not have know how to do hair, but he is doing the best he can do, you know,
Yeah.
so
It's
just
that, yeah, that
yeah,
village. Yeah,
yeah,
that's good.
yeah. And so the third book is Daddy's Getting Married. And this really is the process of, you know, kind of the process of before me and Shay got married, kind of talking
Mhm.
to the kids, you know, getting their feedback. What's that gonna be like? You know, just the whole idea of that. Because our situation, you know, we were we were dealing with each other for 18 months before we told the kids. But to the kids, it looked kind of fast. We told them
Right.
we're we're I think we told them we're boyfriend and girlfriend. 3 months later, we told them we're engaged. Six
Mhm.
months after that, we're married. So they're like, you know,
Wait a
this,
minute. Yeah.
yeah, this is a fast transition. But you know, it wasn't for us. We waited, you know, we waited. But
Mhm.
how it looks to them. So just kind of that whole process I talk about in the third book. And you know, it's that season. So my next book will focus on what it's like. It would not be a children's book, but it's going to be a book for stepfathers, because
Mm.
I want stepfathers and blended families. I'm in the process of writing the book now,
Mhm.
uh, because right now they say 60 to 65% of blended families end in divorce. So there's a conversation that needs to be had around
Mhm.
that. And so I'm going to tackle that in my next book.
Yeah, well, we gotta have another intentional combo about some of these other um some all of these books are on Amazon, right? So I
Yes.
think if you go ahead and you just on Amazon put Jalal Wilson,
Mhm.
all of the books that is associated with him as an author will come up. That way you will be able to get everything. But I love just the simplicity of using practical life experiences and putting and actually doing something with it to be able to share your experience in a way that can help other people. I think that I believe that's what we're here for. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for always being willing to just, again, be transparent, be helpful. The other question that I did put in here was I did ask the stop, start, and continue question about what fathers can stop doing
Oh
that
yeah. Yeah.
their relationship. And I know I said that the other question was the last question, but can you answer that?
Yeah.
What do fathers? So the question that I posed and I put it in our post was, what do fathers need to stop doing that can be could be hindering their relationship with their kids or co-parent partners or just the family? What can they start doing that will help improve the relationship dynamics, and what can they continue doing? If they're doing it. Do you mind just hitting that before
Yeah.
we? Thank you.
Yeah, I think if we for stop, I think we have to stop beating ourselves down about what we weren't. I mean, the previous version of us. We have to stop beating ourselves down. Maybe at one point you weren't a good father. Maybe at one point you weren't a good person working with your blended. Working with your other parent. We have to let that go. We have to let the shame, the guilt, all those things go. We have to stop. We have to just put it down, put that bag down, let that bag go, and decide, how do you want to show up now? We got to start being intentional about how we want to show up now, whether you can show up physically or, conversationally. Um, we gotta, that's what we have to start doing. We have to figure out how we want to show up and be willing to have the conversation about with your child, so they don't create the narrative. Start having conversations about, okay, this is where I was at, this is why, this, or I know this may have affected you this way, and I'm sorry. So start having the conversations so they don't create stories.
Yes.
And because stories left unchecked are harmful for us.
Yeah, look, especially with little girls. You guys should
Yeah.
know this because they grow up to be us, and we be having a whole
Yeah.
what is it? Catalog of books
Yeah.
about our lives
Yep.
and
Yep.
narratives, and then you got to shut all those, go through a revision process. If
Yeah.
you don't, like you said, if you don't catch it early,
Yeah.
that's a those narratives. There's some, they could be something else, and you made this point earlier also, Jalal, is that if they would have been dealt with a long time ago, it could have really shifted the whole perspective or changed the trajectory of a period in their life if they took the time to tell you at that time. So, or if you validated the narrative, right? So
Yeah.
validating the narrative, like you said earlier, is important, instead of just assuming everybody is on the same page, like literally, right? That is important to confirm
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
everybody's on the same page and even the same book or story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then to continue, it's just continue showing up as your best self, whatever that is in this moment. Um, because we're humans, we're messy people, we're just, that's the reality. But you show up the best you can in that moment. And as you grow more, those moments are going to start looking different as you continue to show up. But you have to show up, whether that's, like I said, if you can't see your kid in person, you have to show up however you can, show up for yourself and for your child. And in those seasons, you can't show up for your child, you dang sure have to show up for yourself, because that's going to help you when you can get back in that situation, that space with your child. So you have to keep showing up.
Keep showing up. That's right. And so I will also share with you guys that the last chapter in Intentional Dads is all about what Jalal just shared, which is opportunities and decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Life in general gives us a ton of opportunities. Everything he shared is it's an opportunity to show up. It's an opportunity to actually be present. It's an opportunity to uh, decide to be your best self, right? Even if it was yesterday where you were not the best version of yourself, right? When he said shed the previous version of yourself, that could have been just yesterday.
Yes.
But if you're alive and you're talking and you're breathing, that means you're alive, and you can make another change. You can shift it. You can shift the narrative, and just remembering that as humans, we are co-authors of our life, right? And this is just, again, I firmly believe that. I have never been. I'm unapologetic in my belief. Uh, from a biblical perspective, spiritual perspective, and I believe that God gives us each the opportunity to partner with Him to co-author our story, right? And so that also means we have the authority to shift the narrative. We have the authority to create a new narrative. If we can wake up, then and we're still, our eyes are still blinking, and we can talk, we can change it. We can say, I don't like who I was this last hour. Okay. In
Yeah.
this hour, this is who I want to be. And so opportunities and decisions, the subtitle, it says opportunities and decisions, right? So we have opportunities, we just got to decide to do it. But it says grace and growth required, right? Because with the opportunities and decisions, you have to give yourself grace. That's what I heard underlying in all of Jalal's message. Extend yourself some grace so that you can grow. And so continue to do that. And then if you do it with yourself, then you can do it better with other people, because practice makes progress, right? So if you can extend yourself some grace and you allow yourself time to growth and space to growth, when you journey with your children, when you journey with your co-parent partner, when you journey with whoever, you already are equipped to do that, and you become a better manager of the relationship. And so if you don't know how to do that, then leverage your resources. If you see a guy out here that's making moves in a way that you feel aligns better with what you would like to be to your children or your family, doesn't mean they're not messy, like he said. But just like if he's doing something well, like say, I like how you show up, I would love to. How do you manage the relationship with your co-parent partner? How do you do life with your new wife and your family? How do you do that? Like, take the time to have intentional conversations to get what you are missing, especially if it's essential to being the better version of yourself. All right. So thank you again, Jalal, for joining us, and you will hopefully come back again. I
Yes.
appreciate
Yes.
you, and hopefully you get the phone fixed. I'm so sorry
Yeah.
that happened, because I could have just let you keep freezing, but it
And
just,
no, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
all
Uh,
right. Well, thank you, and tell Shay thank you for allowing us to use some of your time tonight as well.
all right. You guys have an amazing night, and thank you very much for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
I did as well. Thanks.
All
Bye.
right.
Thank you all for joining. Bye bye.
Bye bye.